Hey guys, what's up? Doing my daily routine. I wanted to shoot a video real quick. I'm going on just a trip real quick to the store, and something I've been doing for a while. I just try to force myself to go to the store every morning when I wake up after breakfast. Just to kind of get out. And sometimes I'll stop by the park and walk around for a bit, if I can, There's a lot of mystery when it comes to diagnoses, okay? And there's a lot of faces of diagnoses. And I used to argue with myself, but also with other people. And it was always really hard, and still is hard for me to accept certain diagnoses. I've said it 3 times. There's no doubt that there are disease states of the brain. There's no doubt that there's chronic fatigue syndrome and so forth. But what is in doubt is how these things overlap. There are people that have spent their lives being treated for bipolar who ended up at 35, 40 years old finding out they didn't have bipolar, they had ADHD. And the exact opposite. And you can have a condition that worsens over time, you can have a condition that gets better over time, you can have comorbid conditions. Most of the time, mental health is as a direct result of, it always is, it's a result of inflammation or a degradation or imbalance in the brain in some capacity. And one thing that I've learned is that it's not one size fits all, and unfortunately, and like if you take 5-HTP, for example, which raises serotonin, it's a precursor. You might have high levels of serotonin in one portion of the brain and low in one. It's not all about, it's not that easy, Just like with schizophrenics and so forth, there's certain medications that target dopamine receptors specifically in one portion of the brain and not like the prefrontal cortex. So it's harder. It's harder than a lot of people realize, and fine-tuning that medication regimen for people that don't get better with natural approaches is a very difficult needle to thread. And of course there's like acceptance and there's surrender, and I'm reading a book called Becoming Supernatural, and I have no doubt that these modalities can work for lots of people, but I also have no doubt that there are a lot of people that also need medication. Probably 10% of the people that are actually medicated, but so you guys kind of know that I was a medication shamer, basher. I'm not a medication promoter. I believe in natural, holistic lifestyle. I believe that if I could have caught myself early on and knew what I knew now, I wouldn't need medications, this and that and so forth, and eventually, hopefully, won't need medication. I also know that without medication, I would be dead right now, so it's a really, it's a tough subject. But what I want to say too is, I've seen the faces of bipolar. I've dated a bipolar person. I had a bipolar stepfather. In that classic bipolar where you have weeks of like you can't even get out of bed, depression, followed by mania, where you're just like and just like really all over the place, happy with life. And that's very clear to see. And I'm not saying I'm envious of it in most respects, but I'm envious of conditions that are very easily recognizable, because once you recognize the problem, you're already halfway there or more, because then you can identify solutions. Unfortunately, a lot of conditions that I've been diagnosed with are not treatable, curable. Like interstitial cystitis on a physical level, or borderline personality disorder. I wouldn't say not treatable. Oh, I shouldn't say that. At least medications can't help, and I really, when you're tired and you're so tired and you're so worn out, and you don't know where to go, medication seems like something that could be a bridge. In the case of myself and other people like me, but it's very hard to nail down am I bipolar, because there are other forms of bipolar, and I've been diagnosed with a lot of different mental disabilities, but bipolar was never one of them. I've never presented any type of bipolar. For me, I have just a very consistent, and probably unfortunately so, consistently. I should have went straight. Damn it. Mood or lack of energy, poor mood. I don't ever have any kind of change in my symptoms. I'm always sort of the blah, So I'm pretty comfortable now after years and years and 50 doctors with my diagnosis and accepting those. With the ADHD, I haven't been comfortable enough to try the stimulant yet, for fear of that, which really does seem to check all my boxes and what I need to help me get to that next step. But I'm just terrified of it. I don't know why. People pop that stuff like candy, I don't know. I look at it like it's a dang hallucinogen or something. It just kind of reworks many years of conditioned thinking, in which I thought, I've been on, benzos or depressants, and that really kind of slowed me down and made me feel better. And I've had such good success with things like gabapentin, Klonopin, and Xanax that the idea of taking the opposite of that is scary to me. But I also know that I don't have panic anymore. I don't have anxiety in the sense that I used to. And I try to fit these benzos as this panacea, and really what I have is just poor cognitive executive ability many times, and to be able to boost that would largely help me. So anyway, so everybody's got their own stuff to deal with, and some people get, I would say, lucky in one way that they have a very easy diagnosis and they can quickly be remedied with treatments, and that happens for 60-70% of people. There's a lot of people that fall between the cracks, and they sort of have a kind of friction state between what their diagnosis are, and it could be multiple diagnoses. And if you do have that, it's very hard to assess. But just hang in there, find a good doctor, find the right doctor, and supplement that if you want with a little bit of research. Do not go crazy, and just be comfortable with your diagnosis. And once you are, work with your doctor to try to find holistic natural approaches if you're in a stable state, or if you need a bridge as a medication that you want to try, and then eventually you could come off of it. So it's all good. It's all gonna get better. Just hang in there, guys. Subscribe.